Watch out!
Those of you watching may or may not have been in the loop, but the Switch 2 wasn't the only thing that leaked all over the internet before it was officially revealed. Pokemon had suffered a similar fate thanks to an individual hacker who got into all of Game Freak's files late last year. He gave us major insight into their, creative minds. Funny enough, people's biggest takeaways from that Terra leak didn't relate directly to what we found out about Generation 10 or even Legend ZA. No, rather. Everyone fixated on some insane fanfictions a Game Freak writer created revolving around Pokemon like Typhlosion and Slackoff. It, truly was a time to be alive as a Pokemon fan. But I'm not here to dissect the hidden meanings or deep themes of the extravagant works of writing art. No, I'm here today because the Terra Leaker is back with more info for us from the files he's dug his claws into. Initially, he expressed disinterest in telling us too much, if anything at all, about Generation 10 or Pokemon Legends ZA because he didn't want to halt or hinder production on those games. However, that's not to stop him from giving us what seems to be harmless trickles of new info every here and there until we see something tangible from Game Freak themselves later this year. Today's bit of knowledge is in regards to what will and won't have a Switch 2 version alongside Switch 1 versions, and vice versa. There's also a bit of bonus info the leaker gave us, so we can discuss that a bit as well. The bonus tidbit has less to do with the versions of the game so much as new gameplay options of sorts that'll reside within them. So without further ado, let's spill the tea. First, we'll go over the bonus info since it won't take long to talk about. It turns out that Pokemon Legends ZA will be the first mainline game to feature a highly requested language option, Latin American Spanish. When I saw this, at first I was kinda like, what? No way, there's never been a Spanish option in Pokemon. And, well, I was kinda right. I dug a little deeper and turns out that only Red and Blue and Heart Gold and Soul Silver had a Spanish option outside of Spain. But that option was only Castellano, a version of Spanish spoken in Spain. Español, the Spanish language spoken in Latin America, has never had a translation in mainline Pokemon. Ever. And hardly even any Pokemon spin-offs have it either. Even in Latin America, the Pokemon games came in their English versions. That's insane to me, but I'm glad Pokemon Legends ZA seeks to mend this odd omission. I know this might not affect most of you watching, myself included, but for those of you that care about this and maybe this means something to you, well, I'm happy for you. Now for the big stuff. The Terra Leaker is back with a hefty bite of knowledge from his infamous hack. We now have some evidence that there might actually be a Switch 2 version of Pokemon Legends ZA in the works. Previously, out of all the files the leaker shared with the public, we could only see enough to know that there was definitely a Switch 1 version of Pokemon Legends ZA. Because that's all that was shared with us on our end, we thought that was the only version of the game to exist in development currently. It was a sad revelation, since many of us consider the Switch 1 era of Pokemon to be all but over. We kinda wanna move on. There's already 5 mainline games on Switch 1, more than any other console has ever gotten from Pokemon, and each one was so different from the other that we can safely say there's already a Pokemon game for everyone on Switch. With the Switch 1's hardware aging rapidly by comparison to the ambition developers are expressing with their more recent releases, we were really hoping that Legends ZA would feel as revolutionary to Pokemon as Pokemon Legends Arceus did for Switch 1's Pokemon era. Arceus felt like the first and only attempt by Game Freak to make a truly current-gen Pokemon game with the Switch 1 as their playground. That was the game you could recommend to someone who wanted a true home console experience from mainline Pokemon. To someone who wanted something fresh and exciting from the franchise that's released glorified rehashes of the same game for 2.5 decades. With Legends Arceus carrying that kind of weight on its shoulders, you can't blame the fan base for expecting the sequel to do something similar. To bring Pokemon to a next-gen Nintendo console in ways that generational mainline games refuse to. Now, it looks like we might get that wish. the Terra leaker revealed to us that there is code for a Super Ikkaku in the data files. In case you're confused by what that means, let me explain. Ikkaku is the code name for Pokemon Legends ZA in Game Freak's data files. Code names are typically words used by developers to keep information under wraps until they're officially revealed. Kinda like when spies use code names for themselves, like Nighthawk calling to Angel Wing. So yeah, for example, the Switch 1 was called the NX before it was officially revealed as Nintendo Switch. Switch 2 was called Ounce. From the Terra leak, a semi-recent leak caused by a hacker getting into all of Game Freak's code, many of Game Freak's future and past plans for Pokemon were revealed. Within that, Gaia is the code name for the Generation 10 games that are slated to release after Legends ZA. At the time of the Terra leak, we only knew that Gen 10 had Switch 1 and Switch 2 versions in the works because of the codename folders. There were folders for Gaia, being the Switch 1 version of Gen 10, and Super Gaia, being the Switch 2 version of Gen 10. The leaker purposely didn't disclose Super Ikkaku at the time, but seems to have changed his or her mind. Previously, we only got to see the folder for Ikkaku. Again, that's the pre-release codename for Pokemon Legends ZA. But now, the leaker has told us that they've seen folders for a Super Ikkaku within Game Freak's records. To what extent this other version of ZA is represented is still unclear, but this does at least give us hope that Pokemon Legends ZA might actually have a Switch 2 version after all. It seemed all but hopeless before in that regard, but now there's a chance the game might deliver what we're all hoping for from Game Freak. A next-gen Pokemon experience thanks to the Switch 2's insanely huge boost in power by comparison to Switch 1. Now, there's definitely more to discuss on this revelation, so please be sure to get those conversations rolling by commenting your thoughts down below in the comment section. Afterwards, check out the leaked release date for Pokemon Legends ZA by clicking on the video right in front of you to the right. Or if any of you would like to support me and have your name featured at the end of all of my videos, click the link to Patreon or feel free to become a channel member. I've been johtojonny, and I'll catch you all there.